Hello everyone, back again with movie and tune recap. Today, I'm going to explain an American horror thriller film from 2014, titled Dark House. Spoilers ahead, so watch out and take care. On his 23rd birthday, Nick is called by his mother Lillian to the asylum where she has been institutionalized since his childhood. Hoping that her request to see him is a sign of improvement, Nick is stunned by her revelation that the father he thought was long dead is really alive. Nick touches his mother and has a vision of her dying violently in a fire, making Molly flinch because of the touch. Molly tells Nick that she promised the things in the wall that she would tell him the truth about his father, but Nick leaves before hearing her out. Nick goes to a bar with his best friend Ryan to celebrate his birthday, and there, he meets a girl named Eve, who recently broke up with her boyfriend. Eve later joins Nick and his friends, and she learns that Nick can see exactly how a person will die if he touches them. Nick is persuaded by his friends to touch them, but Ryan is against this idea, but Nick goes ahead anyway. He starts touching them one by one, but when he touches one of the guy, he sees a vision of him dying in an explosion, causing Nick to fall onto the table. The friend demands to know what Nick saw, but Ryan intervenes and stops him from finding out. Nick then holds Eve's hand, but didn't see a vision of her death. Meanwhile, back at the asylum, Molly is talking to a mysterious voice in the walls. The voice becomes angry with her for not telling Nick about his father and sets her on fire, just as Nick had seen in his earlier vision. Nick takes Eve to his home, and later that night, they see a news report about a fire at the asylum that took the life of Nick's mother. 8 months later, Nick meets with Judge Maxwell Bing, who seems to be having a mysterious conversation with someone through a grate in the wall before Nick arrives. Judge Bing reviews the details of Molly's will, and Nick learns that he has inherited an old mansion. Back at home, Nick shows a photo of the mansion to Ryan and Eve, who is now pregnant with his child. Nick reveals that this is the same house he used to draw repeatedly as a child, but never knew actually existed. Nick, Ryan, and Eve set out to find the mansion, hoping to uncover the truth about Nick's father and his strange ability. Along the way, they stop at a local restaurant, where Nick is shocked to see a picture of the same house on the wall. He learns that the house is located in a town called River's End, which was destroyed in a flood. A local named Lucky tells Nick that legend has it that the house, known as Wormwood, couldn't be destroyed and was swept away to a new location. Back on the road, Nick, Ryan, and Eve come across a trio of land surveyors, Chris McCulloch, Lilith, and Sam. The surveyors are surprised to see people in the area, as it's been deserted for a long time. Nick shows them the picture of the house they're looking for, and the surveyors agree to help Nick search for Wormwood. Nick accidentally touches Sam and sees a vision of Sam's future death, but keeps it to himself. The surveyors lead Nick and his friends to the location of the house, and while Lilith stays behind with Eve, the four men venture into the woods to find the house. After a long walk through the woods, the men eventually find the house, and as they walk towards it, the front door opens, followed by a voice telling them to turn back. Sam tries to talk to the voice, explaining why they are there, and the men meet Seth, the house's mysterious resident. Seth tries to warn the men away from the property, while referring to Sam as Samuel, but Sam keeps telling him he isn't Samuel. Reluctant to leave until he finds what he is looking for, Seth ultimately allows only Nick inside. Nick finds that the inside of the house looks exactly like what he drew during his childhood, and he also comes across a big hole in the wall and hears some noise, which he attributes to rats. Nick comes in contact with the ancient tree that has been supporting the building, and soon after, Seth begins to taunt him, revealing that the townspeople blame this house for the devastating flood that occurred years ago, believing it to be a divine punishment sent by God to destroy the house. As Seth issues more cryptic warnings, a group of menacing axemen with long hair and trench coats surrounds the men waiting outside. As Ryan calls out to Nick, Seth urges him to flee and never return. The four men hastily retreat through the forest, pursued by the relentless axemen. During the chase, the men split up and one of the thrown axes pins Chris Cloth to a tree, but he managed to escape. Seth catches up with Sam, Nick, and Ryan, and a thrown axe hits Sam on his chest. As Nick and Ryan run away, they watch in horror as Seth puts his axe blade into Sam's skull. Nick, Ryan, and Chris manage to return to the women and everyone escapes in the surveyor's van. They encounter the Axemen on their way, but Chris manages to pass through them without any harm. They drive back into town, but find it strangely deserted, as if in a parallel reality. Lucky can see Nick and the others searching for help outside the diner, but they can't see him. Lucky then tells a voice in the walls that he will lead Nick back to the house. Lucky mysteriously appears alongside a stalled car on the road, causing Chris to swerve and crash into a tree at the bottom of the embankment. To everyone's surprise, they discover that they have inexplicably returned to the old house, leaving the group confused and disoriented. Chris heads into the woods to search for help, and the remaining group members discover a fuel leak in the car. When Chris returns, he reveals that he found no help anywhere, and the house is now empty. With sundown approaching, the group decides to spend the night in the house, despite Eve's objections and fears that the Axemen may return. Nick tries to reassure her, but suddenly, he sees dead bodies hanging from a tree, a vision that Eve cannot see. As Nick touches the tree, he begins to experience a seizure, and the bodies inexplicably start to shake. Ryan managed to pull Nick away from the tree, and Nick has a vision of Ryan's future death before losing consciousness, and the surveyors notice Nick's handprint on the tree. That night, Nick, who has regained consciousness, and the others hear strange noises coming from the walls. Eager to uncover the source, Nick and Ryan decide to investigate further. Despite the others' objections, Nick and Ryan start poking the air vent to lure out the mysterious entity in the wall. Eventually, it settles in the middle, and Ryan smashes it with a baseball bat, causing it to cry out and splatter black goop all over the wall. Later, Nick has a terrifying nightmare in which he sees his mom trapped in the air vent with her face partially cut off. With Ryan guarding the front door, Nick and Chris attempt to open a mysterious door, but each time they try, it triggers a mob of Axemen to attack. They finally open the door, and the Axemen charge towards the house, forcing Ryan to retreat inside.
Axemen! Axemen everywhere!
The Axemen halt their attack when the door is closed. Nick and the others realize that the Axemen come to life whenever they try to open the mysterious door leading to the basement. They manage to escape the house, but the Axemen spring to life and chase them through the woods. The group splits up, with Eve and Lilith heading in the same direction, and both of them hide in Nick's car. Meanwhile, while running from the Axemen, Nick and Ryan stumble upon Sam's body in the forest, but to their horror, they discover that Sam's flesh was hiding a demon underneath. Ryan remembers Seth's reference to Sam as Samuel and uses his phone to research the name. He discovers that Samuel is indeed a demon's name, and so is Lilith, who is said to prey on unborn children. Back in the car, Lilith reveals her true demonic form to Eve, and begins to press on Eve's stomach with an eerie intensity. Just in time, Seth arrives and kills Lilith, saving Eve and her baby from harm. Seth then reveals to Eve that the three surveyors are actually demons sent from hell to destroy her baby, and ensure Nick finds his way into the house's basement. He tells her that Nick is the son of terrible deaths, and if he enters the basement, he will unleash hell on earth. He urges Eve to flee the forest if she wants her baby to live. Meanwhile, Nick confronts Chris and discovers that Chris is part of the same demonic league as Nick's father, along with Lucky and the townspeople. As the half-human, half-demon offspring of his father, Nick's destiny is to release his father's trapped soul from the house using the blood of 23 beating hearts. Seth and the Axemen are revealed to be an opposing force of angels in a battle of good versus evil. The townspeople arrive and engage in a bloody fight with the Axemen, creating a chance for Nick to go into the house.
Hey, let's go back.
The next morning, Ryan and Eve find Nick in the house, who has accepted his true heritage, covered with blood and wounds. Ryan discovers Nick's plan, but before he can warn Eve, his heart is torn out by Nick. Realizing that Nick intends to kill her and the baby as the final two sacrifices, Eve flees in a panic, and she blacks out. She later awakens in a hospital to learn that she gave birth to a baby boy, and that it was Seth who saved and brought her to the hospital. 4 years later, Eve raises her son as a single mother, and the movie concludes as the little boy is instructed to draw the old house by a voice in the walls. Okay guys, that's all the recap about Dark House from 2014. Thanks for watching, see you again in the next video.